So what do I mean by killing the rabbit? Killing the rabbits? You know what I mean. It's 11:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, 11:30 at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. You got that thought flying through your head that it just won't go. You try to cage it, spin it, do whatever. You just want to kill it and you want to get to sleep. That is probably the number one way that I use and the people I've shared this with use killing the rabbit. And that is dealing with insomnia and dealing with that thought or those thoughts that are just like there and won't let you settle. Well, to address that issue, it's important to recognize and understand, remember, what's going on with your brain. And it's simply this. Your brain is not designed, hasn't evolved to keep track of a lot of important things. It's used to dealing with threats that if something is labeled a threat, it's there in front of it and it does something, right? Oh, here comes a saber-toothed tiger. Threat. Do something about it. Fight it or run, right? Everything else that's labeled a potential threat and it's off in the distance, we've never had to deal with, particularly to the extent that we've had to deal with, and that's possible now. That we can create these triggers in our brain that there's something wrong, that there's an alarm, that there's this existential threat out there somewhere that we can't do anything about at this present time. And because your brain never had the ability to put something down and leave it outside of you to remind you at a later date, how did it remind you? It kept bringing it up. It kept bringing it back. Hey, you said this is a threat. This is important. Here it is. Here it is. Bottom line is we've got old software that doesn't work well in this new environment. So what do we need to do? We need to get it out of our heads. It's that simple. We need to let our brain know that, yes, that's a labeled threat, but no, you don't need to worry about it anymore. And we do that by starting with a brain dump. Get up, grab a piece of paper, and write. Get it all out of your head. You can do this electronically. You can do it on your phone. I've found that it's a lot of times much easier to do, particularly the next couple of steps that we do with this. If you just have a yellow pad or a notepad or a diary, something next to your bed or wherever you're doing this, and just go. And you just get it out of your head and you just go, 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 go. Doesn't full thought, partial thought. If it comes in, you get it out. And if a thought comes back, need to make that reservation, whatever it is, pay that bill. Again, you just simply remind your brain, hey, right there, see? Pay the rent. Number 3, big and bold. I've got it. You don't need to worry about it. And it may come back 1 or 2 more times during this process, but you'll recognize that eventually it says, okay, yeah, I get it. It's there. All right. So you do your brain dump. That's the most important thing. Just get it all out of your head. Have you solved any of your problems? No. You've gotten it out of your head. Your brain still knows everything's there. Then you need to downregulate it again 1 more time. And you do that by prioritizing. You go through that list and you use whatever system you want. 1, 2, 3. High priority, low priority, no priority. One that I like, the way I like to break it up with a 1, 2, 3 is that 1 means it's important. It's immediate. It needs to get done or it's overdue. 2 is it's important, but it's not immediate. I've got a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever to get it done, but I need to make sure. The 3rd is, it's either way off in the distance that I can't do anything about, or it's really not that important. It's more of an idea. I get lots of ideas if you can imagine. And different things are like, oh, you got to do this. Oh, you got to try that. And my brain's just like, oh, what about this? And all these associations. Those generally end up in the 3 bucket. Okay. So now after you've got everything out of your head, you go through line by line and you just put 1, 2, or 3. It's one of those. You either have to do something about it, you're going to need to do something about it, or it doesn't really matter. And you got to label and let them know. So once you get done with that, what do? Well, you just look at all those 3, all the ones that you've labeled 3 or your low priorities that aren't actionable right now, and you go, hey, see ya. We're good. I don't need to be thinking about you anymore. And if that thought does pop up, you just say 3. It's breath work, right? This is why your practice of the day and doing just simple breathing and body scan meditations are so important. It teaches you how to do that anchoring, right? And knowing that once you get distracted, how to come back. And so you're going now. You've come through, and that 3 pops in your head. You just simply release it non-judgmentally. Say, "Hey, you're in my diary. You're on my to-do list, and it's there. I don't need to think about you." And you do the same thing with the 2s. And if there's a 2 that's a little squirrely and it might be actionable, okay, you bump it up. Or you just put the date and need be how many weeks or days away that is, so that your brain goes, "Oh, okay, that's not really a threat yet, but I've got to do something about it." Then you go to your 1s. Might have 1 or 2 1s, you might have 5 1s, you might have a dozen 1s. Things that need to get done. And you go through now and you prioritize those. What are the most urgent things? What are the things that are important? You need to get them done, and they need to get done soon, but there's you're not going to you lose the house, or nothing tragic is going to happen to you or your family. Those sort of things, right? Break those up and then figure out what's your number 1. Because that number 1 is generally, particularly late at night, the linchpin. It's something that's got you going, and you need to take action on that. Or maybe you don't. Maybe just getting all of that out of your head and realizing, okay, when I get up in the morning, this is the first thing I need to do. And your brain goes, okay. You lay down, and then you try to get some sleep. We go through and we turn the on switch off, right? Your brain has been up here. Your cortisol levels are up here. Your breathing has probably been right up here in your chest. So if you haven't done the progressive relaxation or the body scan meditation, perfect time to do that. A simple breathing technique that it's counting the sheep, essentially. Your goal is to be mindfully count to 30. So you close your eyes, you breathe. 1. Nice belly breath with the diaphragm. 2. And your goal is to be mindful that you recognize, I'm counting 1, I'm counting 2, I see the 3, I see the 4, I see the 5, and you go. And if at any point you realize, wait, 15, you lose count or come off track, you start over. And some nights I'll get to 9 and I got to start over. Oh, where was I? Oh, I got to start over. 15, oh, where was I? Got to start over. The majority of the time, if there's no real emergencies and you're not all wired out by caffeine or something else going on, it'll take 2 to 3 attempts and you'll end up going into deep sleep. Why? Because the diaphragmatic breath is going to start down-regulating your nervous system. The anchoring of focusing on the counting and where you are at is going to keep those other things at bay, as well as the fact that your brain now knows they are secure somewhere and you don't need to be reminded of them. And so it's a great way to then kill all those rabbits, to kill that rabbit. Sometimes you have what I call a super rabbit. You're like, it just doesn't work. So how do you kill a super rabbit? Well, you've already done all the hard work. So generally a super rabbit is going to be that number 1 priority or somewhere on that priority list. And it's going to be a actionable item. So maybe you just need to get up and do it. You're worried about missing a car payment or doing this or doing that, or you've got a report that's due. You know what? Get up, do it. You got to read something, whatever it is, get up, do it. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to be sleeping. So instead of wishing you were asleep and being upset that you're not asleep, get up, do the activity, shut it down. Okay? Now, if it's an item that's not actionable, it's something that you don't have control over, that you can't do right then and there, It's a really good time then to go through a ask the right questions form of meditation. Either that's another tool that we talk about in Joby's toolbox, or creating your own, where you're really going to go back and say, okay, this thing that's got me all wound up, you're going to check into reality and see how big of a threat is that. Am I blowing this up a little bit out of proportion? Am I doing some catastrophizing, if I can say the word? Or is there a true threat here? And trying to downregulate and reframe those things that aren't there to try to get back to where you need to be. And then you also need to check in with the big three, with your physiology as part of that as well. You know, are you not sleeping? Are you all wound up? Is your brain going because you had a very stimulating day and it just needs more time to downregulate? Because you had some caffeine late or new medication that may physiologically be keeping you up. So looking into those, and maybe you need to go out and you need to do a moving meditation or do something else. So killing the rabbits isn't a guarantee to a good night's sleep, but it works a lot for a lot of folks for actionable things or things that aren't that big of a deal, that they just need to be letting your brain know, hey, I'm aware and they're over here. Now, killing the rabbit is also a great way to prioritize. As you can see, if you are frozen because you're stuck on something that you don't need to be stuck on, or you're overwhelmed because you have a big, huge to-do list, killing the rabbits the first half is a great way to figure out what you need to do and how you need to do it. You do the brain dump, you prioritize, you figure out where your actionable ones that need to get done, and then you start getting to work. So if you are watching this at hanktogrow.com, look down. You will find a quick little cheat sheet, whether it's a JPEG that you download to your phone or a PDF that you want to print out, whatever works best for you. It's there. It goes over this tool. So it's a quick reference so that when you need it, boom, you can access it and start working it and implementing it into your life. If you're watching this somewhere else, maybe just at YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, wherever, then sneak on over to hanktogrow.com. Check out the Joby Toolbox link and get all the cheat sheets you need and a bunch of other great information while you're there.